Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Marketing That Clicks. Thank you so much for being here. We have a great expert guest here with us today. He's taken time out of his schedule to join us. So, Mustafa Amar, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Michael. Nice to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Well, happy to speak with you as well. And just for context for our conversation, if you could provide a self-introduction as to your background, your expertise, your skill set, we'd be happy to hear it.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So my story in brief is that I lived several career lives in one single life. My first career was as a pharmacist, so I graduated, with a major in pharmaceutical science. But then, 3 years down the road, I wanted to do something else. So I moved to international diplomacy and then I became an international diplomat. I spent more than 10 years of my life as a diplomat. I work in the United Nations in New York for a few short missions. I also work in China and in Africa. Then I had another career change. I moved to investment banking. There is an international bank is called Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which is very similar to the World Bank in nature. And I was lucky enough to work for the first few years of that bank, and have another career change as well. My fourth life, which is the current life, I'm currently an entrepreneur. I am the founder and CEO of the Passion MBA, which is a global coaching company. I'm also a life coach. So because of my practical experience in pivoting careers, I am coaching actually hundreds of professionals around the world to find their dream careers and even build their dream businesses. I'm also the author of the upcoming book. It's called The Passion Project. Build the career that you were born to have and find your life purpose. I'm also a blogger, so I write 2 blog posts every week on, career stuff and business issues as well. So that's in short.
Well, in short, quite an interesting life you've got going, Mustafa. So let's take this one part at a time. 4 lives in one. Not often I hear that. So the UK, US, China, other places. So you've been to those different places. You've worked with people in those environments. What is some of the things, if any, maybe everything is the same in terms of how one does business, different places to another. Are there any subtle nuances and differences in the way people conduct themselves, either in diplomacy matters or in business matters, between the UK, US, and China? Any subtle differences?
Definitely. I mean, the cultural aspect is so deep. And I have seen over my several careers, people coming, from one market to work in another market without that, at least, doing your homework and understanding the other culture and, what you could do, what you cannot do, what are the taboos, all those stuff. And, it's a deal breaker. Either you understand which market you are operating in and the culture that you are dealing with, or not. And it could enhance everything. It could, lead you to, a lot of potentials, and it could not. I have seen a lot of deals, either in my diplomacy career. So, for example, I work in China, and I'm originally from the Middle East. I'm from Egypt. So I've seen, there are a lot of differences in terms of, cultural aspects, what works here, what doesn't work there. And I could see that maybe 80 to 90% of the deals were broken and weren't, moving forward just because of that cultural soft aspect. People were considering other things, were looking at other things, but then the main reason was the culture part. I have done a lot of studies on that as well. So I did my MBA in Manchester, and I had the chance to do a 1-year live project on cultural leadership and, how different leaders from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds were acting in a multicultural context, and how that impacted actually, the employees' performance, motivations, different other things. And I have seen, building up to some extent, your cultural, what I call, CQ, your cultural understanding and, intelligence of other cultures is so unique. So we can always dive deeper into that. But for example, just spending the first few weeks in wherever you are in understanding, what people are doing, noticing around what people are saying, why they are saying so, and how they are reacting, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And that's so crucial, actually.
It absolutely is. You got to be a student of the people and of the land.
Exactly.
So, and you mentioned originally you're from Egypt. So here we have an Egyptian going from the UK to US, China, all over the place, different. It's good for you. You're covering the bases here. And so then you mentioned about the banking experience. So Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, you mentioned it's similar to the World Bank. Now, when most people think of banks, I mean, this is not like a bank you walk up to at your local branch and I've got my representative and I walk in. This is a little bit of who runs these banks that, they're a little bit unique in their nature?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly runs by the nations, by the member states. So, for example, in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, it's more than 100 member states. I mean, it's not an easy issue because everything has been operated in China from China, and we were covering almost everywhere. So, as somebody, and I claim that I was maybe for more than 3 years the only Middle Eastern, the only Egyptian, the only Arab African in the bank for almost 3 years. I had to bring my backgrounds with me, and that's actually my real value. My understanding to the markets in the Middle East, that was so crucial. And beyond Asia in general. I mean, I've been in Asia I spent 10 years of my life in China, so I understand the culture in China quite well, East Asian culture, Southeast Asian culture as well. But then I had to bring my experience, my background, my expertise, and try to help to bridge a lot of culture gap in that regard. And of course, bringing those capitals, from there to the Middle East, to Africa, and even Latin America. I used to cover Latin America because I speak Spanish, and I used to bring somehow that bank from East Asia all the way to the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America.
Wow, you're covering quite a couple thousand miles in your travels there.
So that was an interesting experience because when you have that variety and covering different markets, you're going to learn a lot, and of course when you have that expertise and at least when you come on the table and you negotiate a deal with whatever another culture, you have such an understanding, and the main idea here is to bring both parties to a conclusion, to doing the deal. And that was very exciting, actually.
I bet it was, traversing different environments, different lands, different people. You mentioned you speak Spanish. Clearly, you speak English. How many languages do you speak?
So, it's, of course, the fluency is different. So, my Chinese, because I spent 10 years of my life in China, so it's like my English. Of course, my Arabic is my native. We speak, in Egypt, we speak an Egyptian dialect, which is not the same as Arabic. But if I exclude the Egyptian, I think seven languages. Different fluencies, of course. There are some languages that I was very fluent in, and then once I started learning Chinese, I forgot much more of it.
Wow, 7 excluding the Egyptian. Let's count the Egyptian. Mustafa, let's just say 8. Okay, we could do that. I think that would be, wow, you got quite a traverse. You got a lot of variety on the language side of things. So you mentioned deals, making deals, different cultures, different people, different experiences. In the deals that you have either been a part of, worked to create, what is the average amount of time in days that you would say the average deal took X number of days?
Wow, that's a very good question because it varies a lot. I mean, I have some deals which we were able to finish in a couple of months because it was quite simple. And then I had other deals that took me and took me and my team more than a year to close. I have other deals that I spend almost 3 or 4 years on, and it never closes because of several reasons. Again, the cultural aspect is very, very crucial here because you're having, a multinational company that is operating another company, and they are having a lot of challenges, and you are just trying your best to help them, to navigate. But yeah, it could vary a lot from a couple of months to to a year to close it. And as I said, there are some other deals I left my position, especially when I was a diplomat. I was covering all the Chinese infrastructure projects in Egypt at that time. And a few of them were closed 2 or 3 years right after, but I was the one who started them already.
Oh, good for you. You saw it to completion. Not easy to do. Someone else might have, maybe 6 months into it, somebody might say, all right, it's been fun, it's been great, and it's over. Good luck. But you kept going. Okay. So now, as far as locations, you're from Egypt. You've lived in China for a decade. Where are you now?
I'm currently in London. So I moved from China to London. Currently, I'm with my family most of the time. But because of the freedom that I have right now in my current career as an entrepreneur, so I travel more often. So, for example, like from late July, I would spend 2 or 3 months in the States, traveling around, and because I have this deal with, production companies who are working with them on something, and of course my book. So I have to be in New York for a while. So I consider myself right now as a global citizen. So the idea of being able to travel around, but I'm based in London as of now.
Wow. Okay. Well, certainly travel is a theme here. It's being well traveled. Good for you. And you mentioned U.S. Around January and as well as New York. And so you having been in or lived in or be in different places, is London your preferred place to live? If you had to pick one, you've been in a few different places. You've gotten the taste of the language, the culture, the people. Was there a preference to one? Is there a favorite?
I mean, I have to say that New York is a passion for me. So it's quite weird to say that a city, would be a passion, but that's the reality for me. Sometimes it's not, the reason is not understood. But since the first time I've been there, it was like, wow, I love it. And I was lucky to work twice in the UN for, short missions there, and I lived there. So I like the vibes. I like the energy. And of course, I keep always coming, almost once a year or every few months I come back to New York. So if you could say New York is like, my favorite city. Of course, London is another amazing place to be.
Absolutely. No, you're picking between gold and gold here. So. And the city, okay. Well, so you chose the city. You chose New York City. Well, it's quite the city. I'll tell you that. I mean, they've written songs about it. It has a feeling. It definitely has a feeling. So
exactly. And sorry. And the thing that the key here is the diversity. So what I think I love about cities is the diversity part of it, because it adds value to the city itself. When you have a city like New York or London, it has a lot of cultures in its melting pot. And, there is, I would call, a global language that everybody speaks there, and it's really amazing to see that diversity in such cities. The other thing is, I would say, the resilience of the city. So, for example, New York has been the same almost, for decades. You could see the same building that has been back in the 30s, and you could see it now, and you still live there.
Yes.
And I love that resilience. That I don't say things don't have to change, but at least, there's some resilience in the city. The city was built to stay and live longer than others.
Right, right. There's a strength. There's a persistence about it, and it keeps going.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, okay, good to know about the preference to the metropolis environment. And so now, if we're thinking about your timeline, Egypt, China, US, UK, London, New York City, Latin America, banking.
Africa as well.
Africa, yes. It's a big one in terms, especially, and the people and the natural resources, a whole other culture. And now the entrepreneur, Mustafa the entrepreneur, helping hundreds of professionals through your current initiative and then an upcoming book. If you could share with us the motivation behind when someone writes a book, usually they think it's a good time or it will be a good time. Why now to write the book?
I wasn't a good, whatever I was as a pharmacist or a diplomat or even a banker, I was in a good position all the time, and my pay was quite quite good, and I was enjoying each one of them. But I thought that my life at that point, I really had to do something that I had something inside. I had this message inside. I had all those values that I lived by, and all those values, they changed my life. I still remember when I was a pharmacist and I believed that I could be a diplomat, and most of the people around me were saying, no, you cannot do it. It's impossible. How can a pharmacist who doesn't know anything about diplomacy, global affairs, economics, and international law could make that big jump? So without all those values, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I had to believe in myself. I had to believe in my vision. I had to build that clear vision and know that this is what was at that time the perfect fit for me. And then I had to fight for it. I had to fight my inner doubts. I had to fight all the doubts are coming and attacking me from people around. And I had to believe in myself. I had to have faith in myself, faith in I would call it the fairness of the universe, that the universe is fair. When you do your best, rewards are coming to you. And without those values, I wouldn't be able to do any of these things. And the same values helped me to navigate around and change to, be a banker. And then I was so lucky over 4 years to bring like millions of dollars of investments to different countries, especially, developing countries. This is something I'm really proud of. And exactly those same values were the ones who really pushed me to start another passion project. Exactly the same title of my book, The Passion Project, and try my best to convey that message to people around me and to people wherever they are. If any person could live by the same values that I live by, they could do the same things. They could have the same passion project, even something much bigger, and something else could live much longer than what I had. And I could be, fine just continuing in what I'm doing, but I thought, no, actually this risk is worth doing and worth considering. Starting something new and, send your message to the world, and hopefully this could change people's life too.
Absolutely. Well, being a passionate, driven person can only benefit a person if it's pointed in a good direction. And you mentioned a few different occupations, and that brings us, of course, up to present day pharmacist, to diplomat, to banker, to entrepreneur, to author, and hundreds of professionals. You mentioned that you're helping them, hundreds of business people. How do you share your message with these people? How do you let them know about what you have to offer so that you can help them?
I like you just mentioned a comment. You had this comment which is very interesting. Your passion and direction. So a passion without a direction, maybe it doesn't work. So what I learned in my several career pivots is, you really have to know your passion very well, because imagine if you're driving your car Your car wouldn't move if you don't have fuel in your car. And that's actually your passion. So if you don't have, fuel in your car wouldn't go further, or at least going, for long. But then if you don't have a direction, which I see it's your values, and each one of us, has his or her own values, you wouldn't know how you're gonna, navigate around. I call your values like, your GPS, so you're using the GPS, you're having your fuel, you're going towards somewhere, which is the end. I call it the vision for your dream lifestyle. So what I do is I help my clients to be clear of these three elements. Those are very, very crucial elements: your passions, your values, your vision for your dream lifestyle. Okay. If you have a passion but don't know where this passion will bring you or, will take you, I don't think it's useful. If you pursue a passion that doesn't fit with your values, I don't think it will live longer. The last thing is your vision, because if you don't know where are you going, even if that end destination would change from one point to the other, it's fine. I mean, at some point as a diplomat, I had other dreams. I wanted to be the foreign minister, and then as a banker had other dreams, and currently have other dreams, which is fine. But you really have to have a vision, an end destination for you in order to, go to. So this is what I help my clients to make clear a picture of your passions. So I help them to test their passions. We take some time to, grow the winners among those passions, test them, filter them, and then focus on your top core passions, and then move to your values. The same happens there. So there are some values that each one of us don't want to endanger, For example, right now, my top values are freedom and family. And I don't want to endanger any of them. I want to have my freedom so I can travel around and, I spend my time on the things that I love, and my family. I don't want to be far away from them. That's why I chose to be close to them in London. And then your vision for your dream lifestyle.
Wow. Well, that's a 3-part recipe for a happy life and a great way.
Fulfillment. Yeah, exactly. Because fulfillment is deeper than, than being happy, because happy depends on, more on the moments, So if you want to be happier, you have to have more happy moments, right? But fulfillment is related to, definition of fulfilling is achieving, is always about doing something that is valuable. And in that regard, when you do something that is valuable, it means maybe you're affecting people's life, you're helping people, you're doing some, you're having some charitable, causes or whatever. And that actually, adds up to your life. So you enjoy more, you are more fulfilled.
Absolutely. Well, you help people to do that and get their language down and get the map down so they can look at it. Then thank you for walking us through your both personal experience, professional experience. You took me from United Kingdom to China to Egypt to back to America, through Latin America, up to New York. So it was quite the ride. I thank you for also coming on and sharing about your upcoming book. Very exciting. I wish it much success, as well as what you currently do. And if somebody who might be interested in learning more about you, connecting with you, is there a website you would direct them to, or some other way to connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my website, it's called thepassionmba.com, thepassionmba.com as you spell it. And on social media, I have also Instagram, which I'm very, very active on, the Passion MBA as well, same spelling. On LinkedIn, Mustafa Amar, M-U-S-T-A-F-A, Amar, A-M-M-A-R. And if you search as the Passion MBA, you would find me as well on LinkedIn. And on the website, people could find some very interesting stuff. So, for example, I have this interesting ebook. It's called "The 10 Top Mistakes to Avoid When Planning a Career Change," which is, I think, is very, very important for whoever would like to, change his or her career. There are also, a few other stuff like a quiz, which is helping people to navigate and know which are, the next career, which is the next, best fit for you in terms of career. Also, there is what I call the passion meter. It's an exercise to help you to, navigate and know your passions quite well and narrow them down to the core passions. So it's like the first step toward changing your career.
Absolutely. Sounds like a filter that you could put yourself through to see which way you want to go.
Thanks so much. Thank you much.
No problem. Thank you for coming on and sharing your contact information, your background information, quite a lot of extensive experience, pharmacist, diplomat, banker, entrepreneur, author. Mustafa Amar, I wish you continued success, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Michael. I really enjoyed our discussion, and all the best. And looking forward to catching you in New York, hopefully soon.
Yes, New York, what a state, I tell you. What a state.